You're listening to Ghosts of Asia, a place where ancient superstitions, forgotten rituals, and urban legends still breathe. Not in the graveyards, but in mirrors, elevators, and the photos you wish you never took. Tonight's story comes from modern-day Philippines, a place where even luxury can't keep the dead away. A viral photo, a chilling message, and an old superstition that whispers, "Never tag the dead. They might think you're calling them back." This is the story of Kara, a rising lifestyle vlogger, a rooftop party, and a face in the group photo that no one remembers inviting. But she was there, and now she wants to be seen. Stay until the end. But whatever you do, don't check your old pictures after listening to this. Kara hadn't planned the rooftop party to be perfect, but of course it was. The city skyline behind her glittered like a dream. Neon signs blinked in the distance. Traffic hummed below like a lullaby of urban life. Her new condo towered above it all, freshly built and sleek, with glass railings and warm uplighting that made everything and everyone look Instagram ready. She stood barefoot on the artificial grass, sipping from a glass of mango sangria, soaking in the moment. Her followers had been begging for a condo tour ever since she moved in, but she wanted the first glimpse to be iconic. So she gathered her friends, her ring light, her favorite drone, and threw a soft launch party. Just close friends, rooftop lights, and curated chaos. The photo was taken just after 11:40 p.m. Everyone was a little buzzed. Someone suggested a group picture. Phones were passed around. Someone counted down from 3. A burst of laughter, a gust of wind, and click! Kara snapped the photo herself, holding her phone high. It was blurry in the way spontaneous photos always are, but charming. Isa was mid-laugh, holding up a peace sign. Nico had an arm around 2 girls, one of whom he barely knew. Kara was centered, backlit by fairy lights, a perfect candid smile across her face. She looked beautiful, everyone did. No one noticed the extra figure. Not yet. By 1 a.m., most of the guests had left. Kara sat cross-legged on her bed, still in her gold silk dress, editing the photo with soft filters and muted tones. She knew what her audience liked. "Midnight rooftop vibes," she typed. Then she began tagging. Isa.val, Nico.sings, Beatrix.png, Kayla.done, Migs.ortega. She paused. There were 9 people in the photo, but only 8 she remembered. Kara frowned and zoomed in. At the far left corner, behind Isa and partially hidden in shadow, stood a woman. Pale skin, long black hair, wearing a deep red dress that shimmered faintly under the rooftop lights. Her face was downcast, hair covered most of her eyes. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't doing anything. Kara tilted her head. She didn't look familiar. She didn't match anyone who had been invited, and Kara was certain of that. She had sent personalized invites. The guest list had been tight. No party crashers. Maybe she had just wandered up from a lower floor. Maybe she was a friend of someone's +1. Still, it was weird. Kara shrugged and added a heart at the end of the caption, and hit post. She didn't sleep right away. Notifications flooded in. Hearts. Comments. Ugh, goals. Queen behavior. Invite us next time. Who's the girl in red? She blinked. There it was again. Another comment. She looks kinda scary. She was about to reply when a direct message came in. No profile picture, no username she recognized. It read, "You tagged everyone but me." She stared. The message sat there, cold and unblinking. No emojis, no context, just those 7 words. She clicked the profile. Private, 0 posts, no mutuals. She didn't follow back. Probably just someone being creepy. She blocked it, then turned off her phone. At 3:27 a.m., she woke up suddenly. There was a sound, a soft tick, 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 like fingernails tapping on glass. She looked toward the balcony. Nothing. But her phone screen had turned itself on. The photo was open. It had zoomed in on its own, on the woman in red. And though Kara didn't remember editing it, her face now looked straight into the lens, straight at her. Kara didn't scream. She wanted to. Her throat tightened, her breath caught halfway, but all she could do was stare. The photo had zoomed in on its own. The woman in the red dress was no longer looking down. She was staring directly into the camera. Her face was still partially hidden behind strands of black hair, but now her expression had changed. No longer blank, no longer distant. Now it looked angry, or worse, expectant, as if waiting to be recognized. Kara grabbed her phone and shut it off. Screen black, room silent. Only her heartbeat remained, hard and uneven, like it didn't trust her. She told herself it was a glitch. Phones did that, right? It had to be a bug, a weird filter effect, a bad update, nothing more. But deep inside, something cold was unraveling. The next morning, sunlight made everything feel distant. The rooftop, the party, the photo. The girl in the red dress. Kara sat at her kitchen counter with a mug of coffee, scrolling through her post again. Almost 10,000 likes, hundreds of comments, mostly compliments, but a few weren't so easy to ignore. One said, "I saw her too." Another, "I remember reading somewhere red means unrest." And then, buried in the replies, "She's tagged now, isn't she?" Kara froze. She checked the post again. No one new was tagged, just her friends. But when she tagged the image to open the tag menu, something flickered. For 1 second, just one heartbeat, there was another name, a username she didn't recognize. It blinked into view, then vanished. The screen refreshed. The post looked normal. She tried again. Nothing. Later that afternoon, Kara called Isa. "Hey, do you remember that girl at the party? The one in the red dress?" There was a pause. "What red dress?" "The girl on the far left in the photo. Pale skin, long hair. You were standing next to her." Isa hesitated. "No one was standing next to me, Kara. That side was empty. That's why I was posing like that." Kara swallowed. "Can you check the photo?" "I mean, yeah, I saw it, but I figured she was one of Nico's random friends. You know how he invites half the city." Kara's voice dropped. "Nico said he didn't know her either." Silence. Then Isa said softly, "I thought you edited her in." That night, Kara opened the photo again. She was determined to tag the woman manually. even just to see if the system would recognize her. She tapped the figure's face. The tag menu popped up. She typed, "Unknown guest. Ghost in red. Anyone here? Dead girl. Tag me if you dare." None of them worked. Each attempt was met with the same error message. Tag failed. User not found. She was about to give up when her screen glitched. The lights in her apartment flickered just for a second. Her phone screen froze. Then it went black. When it turned back on, her photo gallery opened by itself. All of her pictures had changed. Every single image, every trip, every birthday, every selfie now showed only two people, Kara and the woman in the red dress. Everyone else was gone. The last photo in the gallery was one she never remembered taking. It showed Kara asleep, in her bed, from the foot of the mattress, like someone had been standing there watching her. In the bottom corner of the frame, red fabric, bare feet, wet. It started with a push, or that's what the witness said, but no one saw the hand. It was 2 days after the rooftop party. Isa had gone to the mall alone. She texted Kara a photo of a denim jacket she was thinking about buying. Then she never replied again. The security footage showed Isa on the escalator, calm, smiling, headphones in. Then, right before she reached the top, she jerked backward, arms flailing. Her body twisted unnaturally as she fell, over the side, 3 floors down. She landed on polished tile, neck broken, dead on impact. The mall played soft music the whole time. Kara found out from Beatrix. "Did you hear about Isa?" Her voice was shaking. She fell at Metro Mall this morning." Kara felt the blood drain from her face. "No, that can't be right. I just talked to her. She's gone." Silence. Then Beatrix added something Kara didn't want to hear. "I was just thinking, that makes it exactly 72 hours after your post." Kara froze. "What?" "You posted at 11:42 p.m., right? I checked. The timestamp's still on your feed. And Isa's fall? Security camera says 11:42 a.m. this morning. Exactly 72 hours. Kara didn't speak, didn't move, didn't breathe. It was just a coincidence. It had to be. But the thought clawed at her. 72 hours. Tag me. Everyone but me. That night, Kara opened the photo again. The rooftop party. Frozen smiles. Shimmering city behind them. The woman in red still stood there, at the edge. But something was different now. Kara had looked at the image so many times, she knew every detail. Now, her head was tilted. Not downward, not forward, but closer to Kara's direction. Her lips, once closed, now curved into a faint grin. Barely visible, barely there, but enough. Kara couldn't sleep. She searched every term she could think of. Girl in red dress, tagging ghosts, Filipino urban legends, never tag the dead, 72 hours curse. Buried deep in an old forum thread, she found a line that made her skin prickle. When you photograph the dead, you must name them. If you don't, they will name themselves, and once they are named, they count the hours. Kara stared at her screen. She whispered the words aloud, barely a sound. They count the hours. It was almost midnight. She got out of bed and walked to the balcony. The air outside was cold, too cold for the season. Below, the swimming pool glowed blue, empty, still. She turned to go back inside, but in the glass door's reflection, there was someone standing behind her. A woman, long black hair, red dress, no face. Kara spun around. No one was there, but the smell lingered. Rotten flowers and something wet.
The pool had been closed for weeks. Maintenance, broken lights, water imbalance. At least, that's what the building management had said. But the next morning, Kara woke to sirens. From her 12th floor balcony, she looked down. The gates to the pool area were wide open. Paramedics clustered near the water's edge. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze. Something was floating, face up, still. She didn't have to ask who it was. Miggs. She recognized the shirt, the shoes, the hair. Even from up here, even half submerged, she knew. They said it was an accident. The night security guard hadn't seen anyone enter the pool area. No cameras had caught him walking past the locked gate, and no one could explain how the gate had been opened from the inside. He had drowned, but there were no signs of struggle, no wounds, no alcohol in his system, no water in his lungs. His mouth was wide open, frozen, like mid-scream, but he had made no sound. Kara didn't go downstairs. She couldn't. Instead, she locked her door, drew the curtains, and sat on the floor with her laptop. 72 hours. Again. She checked the post. Miggs had been tagged. He was in the photo. He was smiling. His body was found at 11:42 a.m., exactly 3 days after Isa. The pattern was real. And she was next. She rechecked the photo group. The woman in red was closer. That was the only way she could describe it. Before, she had stood far to the left, distant and separate. Now she was almost behind Kara, like she had stepped forward. Her head was tilted further now. Her hair parted just enough to show one eye. The eye was white, empty, cold. Kara felt sick. She closed the photo and turned on her phone's front camera. Her reflection looked pale, drained. Behind her, nothing. But when she blinked, for a fraction of a second, the red dress appeared in the corner of the frame. Then it was gone. Kara sat on the bathroom floor with her head in her hands. The lights above her flickered. She counted each flicker out loud, like a child hiding from thunder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Silence. Then her phone buzzed. A notification. New tag added to your post. She hadn't touched the post. She opened Instagram, hands trembling. The rooftop photo was still there. 9 people, now only 3 were tagged. Isa's tag was gone, Mig's tag was gone, and a new one had appeared, placed right over the woman in red. But when she tapped it, the profile didn't load, just a black screen. No username, no photo, only a message, short, simple. See me now? Kara dropped the phone. It hit the tile floor with a hard crack, but didn't break. The screen stayed lit. The photo remained open. The woman in red was now smiling, not faintly, not subtly, but wide, cruel, like she was winning. Kara grabbed the black marker and ran to her printed copy of the photo. She had it taped on her vision board, a memory from a night that had once felt like a beginning. She drew a thick line across the woman in red, scribbled over her, crossed her out. Then she opened the drawer, found a lighter, and burned the corner of the photo. It curled, blackened, crumpled. The woman's section wouldn't catch fire. No matter how long she held the flame there, the red dress stayed intact. The smile stayed. That night, Kara unplugged every electronic in her apartment. No lights, no screens, no phone. She sat in silence, knees tucked to her chest. But silence wasn't safe either. Somewhere in the darkness of her kitchen, she heard the soft sound of water dripping. Drip, drip, drip. And then, a single wet footprint appeared on the floor. Just one, heading toward her.
Kara didn't sleep that night. She sat in the hallway outside her bedroom, back pressed to the wall, holding a kitchen knife she didn't know how to use. She had turned off every device. No lights, no screens, no sound. And yet, the presence never left. She could feel it. Not movement, not breath, but attention. Like being watched by something just beyond the veil of the visible. When morning came, it didn't feel like safety, just another step toward the inevitable. At 8 a.m., Kara plugged her phone back in. It powered on slowly, too slowly. When it loaded, she didn't check her messages first. She opened the photo. The group shot was still there, but now only 2 people were tagged, herself and one friend who hadn't been home in days. The woman in red had no tag, but her position had changed again. She now stood directly behind Kara, almost over her shoulder. Kara was staring forward in the photo, smiling. The woman's face was turned toward her, mouth open, as if whispering. A new message appeared in her inbox. No profile picture, no name. It read, "It's your turn now. 72 hours. We always count down." Kara's breath hitched. She checked the time of her original post. 11:42 p.m., 3 nights ago. Tonight would mark 72 hours. She opened her voice memos and began recording. She didn't know why. Maybe to leave something behind. Maybe to believe she still had some kind of control. "My name is Kara Villanueva. I think I'm being haunted. I think something followed me through a photo. It's killed 2 of my friends. And I think I'm next." She stopped the recording, then deleted it, because a new voice memo had appeared, titled, "Listen." She hadn't recorded it. She pressed play. There was breathing, long, wet, then a whisper. "You see me now." She threw the phone across the room. Desperate, Kara went downstairs. She needed answers, not from her friends, from the building, from someone who had been here longer than she had. The front desk guard wasn't at his post, but the older security guard from her first night, the one with the faded uniform and quiet eyes, stood just outside the elevator lobby. She approached him. "Mang Tony?" He looked at her, eyes heavy with recognition. "You've seen her." He didn't ask. He didn't explain. He just said it like a fact. She nodded slowly. "The woman in red. She was in my photo." "She's always in someone's photo," he replied. They sat in the break room behind the lobby. It smelled of instant coffee and damp concrete. "She only shows up after the first month," he said. "New tenants don't see her right away, not until they open something." "Open what?" "Something digital.
something reflective, something where her name could go. She comes through names. Kara was trembling. Who is she? Mangtoni hesitated, then said, Back when this land was nothing but ruins, during the war, they buried people here. Mass graves, men, women, but mostly girls. Comfort women, abandoned, forgotten. He leaned closer. One of them wore red. She was the last one alive. When the soldiers came, she chose the fire escape over surrender. She jumped from the rooftop. Her body was never claimed. Kara felt her chest tighten. She died where we took the photo. Mangtoni nodded. Her spirit wants to be seen. And once she's seen, she wants to be remembered. Kara whispered, What if I already saw her? Then you only have one thing left to do, he said. But he didn't finish the sentence. That evening, Kara returned to her unit. The sun was setting. Shadows stretched across the walls like long, grasping fingers. She pulled up the photo one last time. There were only two figures left, herself and the woman in red. Everyone else had faded. Literally, their outlines were blurred, smudged, as if being erased from memory itself. The woman now stood beside Kara, their arms almost touching, their heads nearly level. And for the first time, the woman's full face was visible. It looked exactly like Kara. Kara hadn't looked in a mirror in 2 days. She kept every surface in her apartment covered. The bathroom mirror was draped with a towel. The vanity had a bedsheet taped over it. Even the microwave's reflective door had been painted with black nail polish. She knew how ridiculous it looked. She didn't care. She'd seen enough. But tonight was different. Tonight, she needed to know. It was 10:29 p.m., less than 2 hours left. Kara stood in the bathroom, towel in one hand, flashlight in the other. The mirror waited behind the fabric like a mouth waiting to open. She didn't turn on the lights. She didn't want to see everything at once. She lifted the towel, just a little, just enough. Her face emerged from the dark glass, pale, tired, empty. It was her. But the bathroom behind her didn't match. In the reflection, the light above the sink was flickering. In reality, it wasn't. Kara stepped back. The reflection didn't move. Her breath caught. The girl in the mirror leaned forward. Not her, not a copy, not a glitch. The woman in red, hair hanging low, soaked and clinging to her cheeks, eyes hollow, dress dripping onto the tiles that didn't exist in Kara's real bathroom. And her mouth moved. Not sound, not scream, just breath. You see me now. Kara dropped the flashlight. The beam spun wild across the walls. The mirror cracked, not from impact, from something behind it, pressing forward. A web of fractures bloomed across the glass, and behind each shard, a different image. A rooftop, a noose, a fire escape, a girl's face split by blood. Then, silence. The glass calmed. The room dimmed. But her reflection had changed. The Kara in the mirror was no longer blinking. And when Kara stepped back, her reflection stayed. She ran, out of the bathroom, down the hall, to the living room where her photo wall once displayed her life. Now every frame showed the same thing. Not vacations, Not birthdays, not friends. Just Kara and the woman in red. Sometimes close, sometimes far, always present. Her phone buzzed. A new DM. No profile picture, no username. Just a timestamp. 11:42 p.m. And a message. Delete me and I stay. Tag me and I come. She called Beatrix. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, but it wasn't Beatrix. It was her own voice from a video she didn't remember recording. Her voice said, "My name is Cara Villanueva. I think I'm being haunted, and if you're hearing this, I didn't make it." Click. The call ended. Her contact list was empty now. Every name was gone. Only one remained. Me. The lights began to flicker again. The apartment felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were leaning in to listen. She turned slowly, back toward the hallway. And there, standing just outside the bathroom door, was the woman in red. Not in the mirror, not in the screen, here, in flesh, or something that used to be flesh. She didn't move, she didn't blink, she only smiled. Kara backed away, heart hammering. "I see you," she whispered. The woman stepped forward. "I named you." Another step. "I posted you." Another. "I tagged everyone but you." The woman stopped, then said with a voice made of rusted wind and drowning breath, "Then you called me." The lights went out, and Kara was no longer alone.
The elevator shouldn't have opened. Not at that hour. Not without her pressing anything. And definitely not onto a floor that didn't exist. Kara stared at the glowing number above the elevator door. 13. There was no 13th floor. She remembered it clearly from the building tour. Like most towers in the city, they had skipped it, a common superstition. From 12, the next was labeled 14. Always had been, always should be. But now the button was lit, and the doors were open. Inside, the elevator was empty. The lights flickered softly, like they were holding their breath. Something waited inside, not moving, not calling, just waiting. Kara should have walked away. She knew that. But something inside her, maybe desperation, maybe madness, told her this was the only way forward. She stepped in. The doors closed behind her without a sound. There were no buttons, only a single one, already pressed. The elevator hummed, not with machinery, but with something deeper, like chanting, low, rhythmic, buried in the wiring. The numbers blinked past, 10, 11, 12. Then the lights cut out. When they returned, she was there. The doors slid open. Darkness greeted her. But it wasn't the kind of dark that feels empty. This darkness was full, heavy, thick with memory. Kara stepped out into a hallway that smelled of mildew, smoke, and something older, something sweet and rotting at the same time. The walls were yellowed with age, though the building was new. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long, distorted shadows. Water stains dripped like veins down the ceiling. None of it made sense. This place should not exist. But it did, and it remembered her. The hallway stretched longer than any other in the building. Each door was slightly open. Behind them, silence. Until she passed the third door, then came the whisper. Low, drawn out, a woman's voice. Kara. She turned.
No one there. But something had moved in the corner of her vision. A flicker, a shape in red. She kept walking. At the fifth door, another sound. A gasp, short, sharp, like someone breathing for the first time in a very long time. At the seventh, a sob. Not loud, not dramatic, just tired, worn out from crying too long. She reached the end of the hallway. A single door stood there, unmarked, no number, paint peeling from the wood like skin from a wound. She reached for the handle. It turned without resistance. Inside was a room that didn't match the rest of the floor. No walls, just mirrors, floor to ceiling. A circle of reflections. She stepped inside and saw herself. Dozens of herself, but none of them were moving the same way. Some blinked slower, some tilted their heads in opposite directions. One didn't move at all. And in the mirror directly in front of her, the woman in red stood beside her. Only in the reflection, not in the room. But her hand was reaching toward Kara's shoulder, and she could feel it. Cold, wet, real. She turned. No one there. But in the mirror, the woman whispered again. "You named me. You saw me. Now come see what you buried." The floor cracked beneath her. She fell. Not physically, not entirely, but her reflection fell straight through the mirror, into a place that wasn't light or dark, just deep. Kara opened her eyes. She wasn't in the mirror room anymore. She was outside, in the past, a ruined rooftop, fire-damaged, twisted railings, blood on the concrete. It was night, and at the edge, a girl in a red dress stood facing away from her, hair long, barefoot, shivering. Kara couldn't move. She couldn't speak. The girl turned slightly, revealing only half her face. It was Kara's. Then she stepped off the ledge, and Kara woke up screaming in her own bed. It was 11:39 p.m. She had 3 minutes left. 11:39 p.m. 3 minutes. Kara stared at the screen, hands shaking, pulse pounding, breath shallow. The photo was still there. The rooftop memory, now twisted, silent, and crawling with ghosts. Only 2 people remained, herself and the woman in red. Kara's smile in the photo looked different now. Tight, forced, stretched like the skin didn't want to hold it anymore. The woman beside her had not just moved, she had merged. Their arms overlapped, their shoulders blurred, like one was being erased to make room for the other. 11:40. Kara opened the tag menu. She tapped the woman's face. The screen glitched. Then something new appeared. A name. Not a username, not a handle, just a word. Remembered. The tag locked in place. She didn't type it, she didn't press anything. The post updated on its own. Then the lights in her apartment went out. 11:41. Kara stood in the dark. Her phone buzzed again. A message. No sender, no timestamp, just a phrase. "You finally see me." She whispered into the dark. "What do you want from me?" No answer. Only another message. To not be forgotten. Kara ran to her wall of photos. They were all gone. Burned out, faces smudged, memories erased. Except one. A single photo still remained. Her and the woman, standing together, back to back, smiling. Identical. It wasn't just that the woman looked like her anymore. It was her, or a version of her. The version that had been left behind. 11:42. Kara's phone buzzed one last time. Time. She expected cold. She expected pain. She expected the floor to open, the walls to bleed, the ceiling to collapse. But none of that happened. Instead, silence. The deepest silence she had ever heard. It wrapped around her, tucked her in, soft, final. Then light, not real light, screen light. Her phone glowed again, but now the Instagram app was gone. Her entire feed was empty. Her account deleted, all except for one image, the group photo. Still online, still visible, but now Kara wasn't in it. No tags, no comments, just one figure in red, standing alone, smiling at the camera. Kara tried to scream, but no sound came out. She was still standing in her apartment, but something was wrong. Her reflection didn't follow her. She moved. It didn't. She blinked. It stared. And then it smiled. From outside the apartment, a neighbor walked past and glanced at Kara's window. He saw a girl standing in the dark. Long black hair, red dress, eyes wide open, mouth shut tight, watching. The rooftop photo remained online. No one could explain why. Kara's profile had been deactivated, her stories deleted, her old content wiped clean, but the image stayed, pinned to the top of a blank account. No caption, no tags, just a photo of a party, a night, and a woman in red, always in red. At first, no one thought much of it. Accounts disappear all the time. People quit, influencers burn out, disappear. But her followers noticed. They searched, dug through archives, asked questions, and always came back to that one photo. Who were the others? Why hadn't they posted anything since? More importantly, who was the woman in red? The comments started small. She looks creepy. Is this an edit? Anyone else getting chills from her eyes? Then came the DMs. Private, unprompted, unsettling. Some were jokes, others weren't. I saw her in my mirror last night. Why is she in the reflection of my own photo now? My phone glitched after I saved it. Did you tag her? Please tell me you didn't tag her. A girl named Leah reposted the image. She added filters, made it aesthetic, wrote a thread about digital hauntings. She got thousands of likes. 2 days later, she slipped on her apartment stairs. Her skull cracked open at exactly 11:42 a.m. Another user, who commented, "This is fake as AF," had his account hacked. All his photos were replaced with distorted versions of the rooftop picture. But in each one, he looked a little more erased. It kept happening. People who laughed, people who reposted, people who noticed the red dress and asked the wrong questions. Soon the story spread beyond Instagram. A Reddit thread, a Discord screenshot, a YouTube reaction video, TikTok edits with slowed audio and reversed whispers. Everyone thought they were safe because it was just a photo, just a story, just an image that didn't belong to them, until it started appearing in their photos. At first, small, a sliver of red, a blurred face behind a crowd, a shape in the window. Then more, a full figure, always to the left, always watching. Someone tried to delete it. They were an ex-tech specialist. They claimed to scrub metadata, reroute the source, deep clean image origins. The post vanished for 1 minute. Then it came back. Same timestamp, same resolution, same woman. Only now, her head was tilted a little further. Her smile was a little wider. And her hand was raised, pointing. No one remembers who said it first, but the warning came anyway, passed along from post to post, comment to comment, a quiet phrase repeated like an old prayer. Don't save the image, don't repost it, and whatever you do, don't tag her. But someone always does. Somewhere out there, a user is scrolling right now, curious, careless, skeptical. They'll screenshot it, maybe post it on their story, maybe send it to a friend. They'll zoom in, just a little. They'll tap on her face, just once. And then she'll be remembered. Let's stop pretending this is just a story. Because by now, you've seen her too. Maybe you didn't notice it at first. Maybe you just thought it was a face in a photo, an eerie detail, an urban legend. But you kept listening, and now you're here. You're remembering the photo, aren't you? The rooftop, the faces, the smile. You're thinking about the woman in red, how she stood just outside the group, how no one tagged her, how she never looked at the camera until now. Check your screen. Don't look away. Are you sure she's not there? Behind the words, between the pauses, in the corner of your eye? Is the room a little colder than it was? Are the lights flickering? Is your reflection moving just a second too late? That's how it starts. People like you are always the last to know. You didn't repost. You didn't save the image. You didn't tag her. But you listened. You followed every detail. You leaned in. You saw her. And once you see her, truly see her, she sees you back. So now the question isn't if, it's when. 72 hours. That's what the others had. That's what Kara had. That's what they all had. The moment you finish this chapter, it begins. Tick, tick, tick. You might try to forget. You might shut off your phone. You might even laugh. But when you open your photos tomorrow, check carefully. Zoom in, to the left, in the shadows, in the crowd. She'll be there, waiting for her name. And if you tag her, even once, she will smile. Not because she's happy, but because she was remembered. And now, you are next. Elena didn't know Kara. They had no mutual friends, no common history. They didn't go to the same school, live in the same city, or follow the same influencers. But late one night, around 2 a.m., a screenshot appeared in one of the group chats she barely paid attention to. It was a blurry Instagram photo. Rooftop, friends, city lights. A caption with no words, just a date. No one in the chat said where it came from. No one tagged anyone. No context. Just the message. Look at the girl in red. Alana clicked, zoomed in, frowned. Photoshop? She typed. No reply. She saved the image anyway, not because she believed in it, just out of curiosity. That was night 1. On day 2, she started dreaming of rooftops. Not falling, not flying, but just standing, surrounded by laughter she couldn't join, music she couldn't recognize, and always, just before waking, a figure to her left, not moving, just watching. She told herself it was stress. She was tired, hadn't slept properly in days. But then she opened her photo gallery and found something she didn't remember saving. It was a selfie, taken at her desk. Same shirt she was wearing, same background, but in the mirror behind her, a blur of red and long black hair. She deleted it, didn't even hesitate. But the image came back the next morning. Same photo, only this time the blur was clearer and closer. On day 3, the lights in her apartment began to flicker, only between 11:40 and midnight. Only when she stood near a screen. Only when she thought about deleting the original screenshot from the group chat. That's when the messages started. Not on her phone, not in the group, but on her bedroom wall, written in condensation, on the mirror, on the window, on the fridge door when she opened it. You saw me. You saved me. Now I stay. Elena tried to ignore it. She unplugged her Wi-Fi, turned off her phone, slept at a friend's house. But it followed her there, too. Because the thing wasn't in the device. It was in the act. She had seen. She had saved. She had remembered. And remembering is what brings her back. The next night, Alana finally opened the photo again. She stared at the girl in red, looked straight into her pixelated face, and whispered, "What do you want?" She didn't expect an answer, but one came anyway. Not a voice, not a scream, just a change. The girl in red tilted her head, the file glitched, and a new face appeared beside her. It was Elena's, smiling, frozen, as if she'd been at the rooftop party all along.
Elena hadn't been at the party. She kept repeating that in her mind over and over like a mantra. She hadn't been there, didn't know them, didn't even live in the same city. But when she opened the image again, she saw herself, third from the right, behind a boy with messy hair, leaning slightly, smiling gently, like she had always been part of the group. She stared at her own face. It was her. Same birthmark near her eyebrow, same subtle scar on her chin. But the worst part wasn't that she was in the photo. It was that the others weren't. The photo had changed again. Where there had once been 8 or 9 people, now only 3 remained. The girl in red, Kara, and Elena. Kara's face was fading, blurry, half erased like a memory melting from the edges. The girl in red was sharper than ever. And Elena? She looked clearer than in any real photo she'd ever taken. Her smile was wrong, too wide, too still, as if it had been carved onto her. Elena dropped the phone. It hit the floor and slid under the couch.
She didn't reach for it. Instead, she stood frozen in the middle of the room, staring at nothing, or maybe staring at everything. Her mind raced. What had she done? What had she agreed to just by looking? Then she remembered something from the messages she had read online, from the whispers in the cursed threads, the stories people didn't finish. You don't have to be there. The photo brings you in. All it needs is your attention, your recognition, your memory. She was trying to forget now, trying to block it out, trying to sever the mental thread before it pulled her deeper. But forgetting isn't easy when the lights begin to dim, when the air feels colder even though the windows are shut, when the mirrors start to reflect people who aren't in the room. That night, Elena awoke to a sound. Not a scream, not a knock, just a click, like a camera shutter. She sat up. No one was there. Then her printer, the one she hadn't used in over a year, turned on. It whirred, buzzed, printed something without her touching a thing. She stepped slowly toward it. One photo slid out. Only one. The rooftop, now almost empty. Only two figures remained, the girl in red and her. Elena flipped the photo over. In thick, smudged ink, one sentence was written across the back. You're tagged now. She didn't sleep. She couldn't. She sat with every light on, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling through forums, deep threads, message boards from the hidden parts of the internet. And slowly, a pattern emerged. This wasn't new. There were whispers of it going back years, old digital photographs from unknown accounts, ghost tags, disappearing profiles, people who vanished after appearing in photos they never took. A phrase appeared again and again. The dead don't die when they are forgotten. They die when they are remembered wrong. Elena stared at her printer, then at the image again. The girl in red was now reaching for her, her hand extended, almost out of the frame, almost into the room. The first thing Elena noticed when she woke was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, the other kind. The kind that made you feel like someone was listening. Even before her eyes opened, she could feel it. Something had shifted. The air was too still, the darkness too thick, and the temperature cold enough to hurt. She reached blindly for her phone. When the screen lit up, her heart stopped. The photo was still there, but the girl in red was gone. She stared, confused. The rooftop image was the same as always. Same angle, same blur, same lighting. Except now, the space where the woman had stood was empty. No blur, no distortion. She had simply vanished. The tag, remembered, still hovered above the empty space, but the girl was no longer in the frame. Kara was gone, the other faces erased. Only Elena remained in the photo, alone. She blinked hard. Maybe the file was corrupt. Maybe the app had glitched. She checked her original screenshot. Same result. She opened her gallery, then her cloud backups, then her email. Every version of the image showed the same thing. The woman in red had left the photo, and Elena knew exactly what that meant. She was here now. She moved through her apartment like walking through a dream she didn't want to be in. Every shadow looked longer. Every door seemed slightly open. Every mirror refused to reflect the full truth. She passed her hallway mirror and froze. It still showed her standing there, but something was wrong. In the reflection, her arm was not at her side. It was being held by someone just out of frame. She turned quickly. Nothing, but her arm still felt cold, pressed, gripped. She whispered into the empty room. "Where are you?" No reply, only a soft creak from the kitchen. She followed the sound. Her printer was on again. Another photo slid out, fresh, warm. She picked it up with trembling fingers. It wasn't the rooftop. It was her apartment, tonight. And in the center of the room stood a woman in a red dress, facing away. Her hair hung wet down her back, and behind her, crouched in the corner, was Elena. The photo had been taken from above, from the ceiling. There were no cameras there. Elena ran to the mirror again, looked into her own eyes. "Please, I didn't mean to see you. I didn't know." Her reflection blinked, then smirked. It wasn't her. It looked like her, spoke like her, moved like her, but it wasn't her, because her reflection reached out and knocked on the glass. Once, twice, then on the third knock, the mirror cracked. She screamed, stumbled back, knocked over the lamp. The lights went out. In the darkness, she heard the sound again. Click, like a camera, but louder, closer. Then a whisper in her ear, so cold it burned. "You're not in the photo anymore, either." Elena didn't leave her apartment for 3 days. She barely ate, barely slept. And when she did, the dreams returned. Always the same rooftop, always the same silence, always the same girl. Only now, the girl wasn't just watching. She was reaching. Each night, the red dress came closer. Each morning, the mirrors cracked a little more. And yet, Elena hadn't been taken. Not yet. There had to be a reason. Someone, somewhere, must have survived this. She began searching, not through mainstream sites. They buried stories like this, but in private forums, encrypted archives, ghost threads from abandoned message boards. And slowly, she found traces, other names, other victims, other near victims. One post caught her eye. A user named Zero Eyes had written just 2 years ago. "If you're reading this, it means you've seen her. And if you've seen her, it's already started. But she only takes the ones who forget why they're afraid." Another wrote, "We didn't invite her, we didn't tag her, but we gave her what she wanted, an audience." Elena followed link after link, dead ends, broken pages, until she found something different. A map. Not labeled, not detailed, just a dot in the center of a city she had never visited, and a message. "They meet here, the ones who still remember her." She copied the address, a bookstore, closed for years. But someone had pinned the location only 1 week ago. Elena left her apartment for the first time in days. She took nothing, not even her phone. No photos, no reflections, no digital footprints, only memory. The building was buried in the oldest part of the city. A cracked door, a window covered with cardboard, a rusted bell that didn't ring. She pushed the door open. Dust. Silence. A single oil lamp flickered in the far corner. And behind it, people. 3 of them. All sitting in silence. They looked at her without surprise. The oldest, a man with gray hair and a stitched scar across his cheek, spoke first. "You've seen her." Elena nodded. "She left the photo. She's here." Another woman, younger, leaned forward. "She only leaves when she's been seen too much. That's when she becomes real again." The third, silent until now, handed Elena something. A photograph. Old. Torn. A different rooftop. A different group. But the girl in red stood in the same spot. Same hair. Same eyes. And right beside her was the man now sitting across from Elena. He pointed to his own face in the image. I was tagged, but I found a way to resist. How? She asked. He smiled grimly. You don't stop seeing her. You stop letting her see you. Elena didn't understand. Not yet. But she felt it. For the first time since the nightmare began, she wasn't alone. There were others, the ones who remembered her, the ones who hadn't looked away, the ones who lived between forgetting and becoming. And somewhere deep beneath the silence of this old place, she could feel the girl in red still watching, waiting.
The bookstore was silent after midnight. No phones, no screens, no reflections. They sat in a circle, Elena and the three others, surrounded by dusty shelves and shadowed corners where nothing moved but everything listened. Each of them had been marked. Each had survived longer than they should have, and each one knew the same truth. The girl in red was changing. She used to be bound to images, the scarred man said, to photographs, to memory caught in glass. She was tethered to visibility, to being tagged, named, seen. Elena whispered, "But she left the photo." He nodded. "That's how it always ends. Once enough people see her, she no longer needs the frame." The young woman, Mira, added quietly, "She evolves, she adapts. Every time she's remembered, she becomes more real." Elena looked around the room. Old papers lined the walls, shards of broken mirrors stacked in boxes, ink-scrawled warnings in a dozen languages. Then what is she now? No one answered right away. Then the third one, a quiet man named June, who hadn't spoken since she arrived, finally spoke. "She's a memory that remembers you back." That night, Elena tried to sleep in the back room of the bookstore. She lay on a floor mat between two shelves of forgotten encyclopedias. There were no lights, no windows, no screens, but the silence felt like static. She dreamed again, not of rooftops, not of photos, but of herself, standing in the middle of an empty room, surrounded by people who wouldn't look at her, who turned their backs, who let her fade. And in the dream, she realized she wasn't Elena. She was the girl in red, and she was cold, so cold, screaming, but no one turned around. No one remembered her the right way. Elena jolted awake, heart pounding. Something had changed in the room. The lamp had gone out. She wasn't alone. She couldn't hear anything, no breath, no steps, but she could feel it. A presence, heavy, wet, close. She looked toward the door. No shadow, no figure, but the air was colder near the frame. Then came the sound. Not a whisper, not a cry, just 3 knocks on the wood. Slow, intentional, like someone asking permission to enter a place they already owned. Elena didn't move. The others didn't wake. She stayed frozen as something slipped beneath the door. Not fingers, not feet, just a shadow,
stretching toward her. It stopped inches from her chest, then slowly began to pull back, as if testing her, as if waiting for her to reach forward. She didn't. Not yet. The next morning, Mira handed her a piece of paper, written in shaking ink. She doesn't want to be remembered. She wants to become. Become what? Asked Elena. June answered without turning. You.
It started with a name, or what might have been one. Faded ink on an old envelope, tucked in the back of a torn book, found by accident, or maybe placed there on purpose. Elena opened the page carefully. The paper was brittle, warped by age and damp air. Handwriting stretched across the bottom in Tagalog, barely legible. 3 words. Hindi ko kinalimutan. I did not forget. No signature. But folded inside was a photo. Not the rooftop, not the group, not the curse. This one was older. A black and white portrait, blurry at the edges, but sharp at the center. A young woman. No red dress, no shadows, no anger. She wore a plain blouse, hair tied back, eyes soft and tired, like someone who'd waited too long to be seen. On the back, another sentence. Her name was Alona. Elena stared at the name, said it out loud once. The air in the room seemed to react, like something had leaned in to listen. She showed the photo to Mira. The young woman's face paled. That's her. No, Elena said. It can't be. This isn't the same woman. It is, Mira replied. Before the red dress, before she was a memory. June took the photo from them gently, held it like something sacred. She was a real person. That's what everyone forgets. According to what little they could gather, Alona had lived during the final years of the Japanese occupation. She was 17, a factory girl, the daughter of a weaver. One day she vanished on her way home. No body, no funeral, just gone. Her mother hung red fabric outside the house for 7 days, an old custom for those who had died unjustly, whose souls had no temple. No one came to take it down. When they finally entered the house months later, they found the red cloth soaked through, though it hadn't rained in weeks. It smelled like salt and ash. Mira lit a candle as June finished telling the story. She wasn't a ghost at first, he said. She was grief, then memory, then myth. Elena stared at the flickering flame. And now? June looked at her. Now, she's vengeance. That night, Elena dreamed again. Not of rooftops, but of a one-room house. Wooden floors, a rusted sewing machine, a red dress hanging in the corner, untouched, and a girl kneeling in the center of the room, hair tied back, hands trembling, face turned away. Elena stepped closer, tried to speak, tried to ask, but when the girl finally turned to look at her, it wasn't Elona's face, it was hers. She woke up gasping. Mira was already waiting, holding a notebook. You're dreaming what she wants you to see, she said. She's choosing you. Why me?
Elena asked, barely able to speak. Because you didn't just see her. Mira placed the photo of Ilona into Elena's hands again. You remembered her right. But it was already too late. From across the room, the cracked mirror whispered. Ilona was no longer inside the photo. She was already in the reflection. And this time, she looked like Elena.
The girl in the photo had soft eyes. The girl in the mirror did not. Elena sat cross-legged on the cold wooden floor of the bookstore's back room, staring at the portrait of Ilona, the real Ilona, and trying to hold on to what was left of the truth. But the truth was slippery. It shifted, changed shape, especially in the dark. And tonight, the dark was heavier than usual. Mira lit another candle, the fourth that evening. They didn't last long anymore. Red, she said softly, wasn't a color she wore in life. It was the color she was buried in. Elena looked up, startled. What do you mean? Jun answered from the doorway. They found her. Silence fell over the room. Elena stared at him. You said no one ever did. We thought that was true, until a man came here 6 months ago. He didn't speak, just left a journal and a name. He opened a worn envelope. Inside, yellowed pages tied together with string and one blood-red thread woven through the spine. He placed it on Elena's lap. The title read, She Died Wearing What They Wanted Her to Wear. The entries were written in broken Tagalog and fragments of English. They spoke of military camps, of young women taken in the night, of rituals no one talked about, and of one girl, the last one, who resisted. Ilona. According to the final page, her captors dressed her in red before they ended her life, not out of respect, but to mock her, to mark her. Red for shame, red for ownership, red for silence. She never chose the dress, Elena whispered. No, Mira said, but now it's all anyone remembers. And that was the horror. She wasn't haunting them because she died. She was haunting them because they remembered her wrong. She had been turned into a symbol, a ghost story, an aesthetic, a viral image, and in all of that, her name had been stripped away. Her real face forgotten. Her pain made entertainment. The red dress was never hers. It was what the world forced onto her. And every time someone reposted the photo, commented on the mystery, tagged the woman in red, they reinforced the lie. June spoke quietly. When memory is distorted, it becomes possession. Mira added, she doesn't want revenge. She wants her story back. That night, Elena stood in front of the mirror again. The crack was wider now. It split her face in half. She held the photo of Ilona in one hand and the cursed rooftop image in the other. In one, a girl. In the other, a ghost. And somewhere between the two was her own reflection. She whispered aloud, your name was Ilona. The mirror flickered. You didn't wear red. The mirror trembled. You were taken, erased, and remembered wrong. The mirror fractured, not violently, but clean, like something releasing. And for the first time, she saw the girl. Not the curse, not the shadow, not the haunting. Just Ilona. Tired, sad, almost free. Then came the whisper, not behind her, but from inside. Say my name again.
Ilona. Elena said the name again, not as a question, not as a fear, but as a promise. Ilona. This time, when she spoke it, the mirror didn't crack. It cleared. The fog that had clung to its surface vanished, and for the first time in days, Elena saw her reflection as it truly was. Her own eyes. No shadow behind her, no figure in red beside her, just herself. But there was more, because behind her, barely visible in the depth of the glass, was Elena. Not staring, not reaching, not haunting, waiting. Mira stood behind Elena now, watching in silence. "She's listening," she said. "You've opened the door in a way no one else has." June entered slowly, carrying something wrapped in a white cloth. "I found this in a flood-damaged archive. It's the only record left." He placed the cloth on the table and unwrapped it. Inside, a faded obituary, written in ink so faint it was almost invisible. There was no photo, just a name. Elena C. Navarro, 1926 to 1943. Beloved daughter, never recovered, never forgotten. Below that, a handwritten note in a woman's delicate script. "They took her body. I will not let them take her name." Elena felt something press against her chest, like warmth, like grief, like something deep and unspoken was finally rising to the surface. She sat down and began to write, not in a forum, not in a group chat, not on social media, but on paper. Her hands moved without thinking, sentence after sentence. Not a ghost story, not a warning, not a myth, a memory. She wrote about Elena as if she had known her, who she might have been, what she might have loved, the way her laugh might have sounded, the dreams she might have had before the world took her away. And with every word, the room grew warmer. The flickering candle stilled, the cracked mirror softened its edges, and somewhere, quietly, a girl's voice said, "Yes, that's me." They gathered that night, Elena, Mira, June, and the scarred man, and placed the pages on a small wooden table in the center of the room. June lit a match and spoke the old words his grandmother once told him. "What is named truly cannot become cursed." They didn't burn the papers. They let them sit. Let the air carry the story. Let the memory become breath again. And in the corner of the room, behind the shelves, behind the dust, behind the veil, a figure in red stood still, then faded. Not shattered, not screamed, not exorcised. Released. Elena cried for someone she had never met, not out of fear, but out of recognition. She had seen her wrong, but now she saw her right, and in doing so, she gave her back her name. The next morning, the rooftop photo was gone. From her phone, from the cloud, from the group chat. All versions deleted without prompt. No corrupted files, no haunting glitches, no final messages. Just silence. Not the empty kind, the peaceful kind. Elena stood by the window, watching the sky shift from gray to gold. She whispered one last time, "You're not the girl in red. You're Elena." And somewhere, not in a mirror, not in a screen, not in a curse, someone smiled. The bookstore remained quiet long after Elena's presence faded. No more flickering lights, no more cracked mirrors, no more whispered knocks in the night. But silence didn't mean the story was over. It meant something sacred had passed through and left a mark that no one could see, but no one could forget. June sealed the written pages in a handmade box. No lock, no chain, just ink and wood and care. He placed it on the highest shelf Behind books no one checked anymore. Not to hide, he said, but to protect. Mira began recording spoken versions of the story, not for the internet, not for clicks, but for memory. She didn't edit the audio, didn't add music. She simply whispered. Her name was Alona. Elena moved slower now, not out of fear, but reverence. She still didn't post online. She didn't speak of what happened in crowded places. But when someone whispered of a photo, when someone joked about the girl in red, when someone asked if she'd heard the story, she answered gently, "Yes, but that's not the story you think it is." The curse hadn't been broken. It had been rerouted, because curses grow in the cracks of memory, where trauma is made entertainment, where grief is cropped and filtered, where names are erased and replaced with hashtags. But now there were those who kept the real version, the version without a dress, without a rooftop, without a scream, just a girl, just a name. Elena returned to her hometown weeks later. She carried no luggage, just the photo of Alona, and a single thread of red string wrapped around her wrist. She walked past the local school where students laughed, past the street vendors, past the church steps, and into a small library with flickering lights. She asked for the history section. She waited until no one was watching. Then she slipped the photo and Alona's obituary into a book about wartime resistance. No ceremony, no magic, just memory. Placed gently where someone would find it one day, and maybe, for a moment, see her write. Others began doing the same. A man left a drawing of her in a university art exhibit. A nurse told her story to a patient on his last night. A teacher included her name in a lesson about forgotten women of the past. A child dreamed of a girl in white who whispered, "Tell them I existed." The rooftop photo never returned. But every once in a while, a mirror flickered, a screen glitched, a shadow passed too close to the edge of a reflection. And if the person who saw it remembered the name, nothing happened. But if they laughed, if they reposted, if they pointed and said, "That girl in red looks creepy," the silence broke and the curse restitched itself. Because forgetting is what feeds her, but remembrance, real, tender, honest remembrance, is what sets her free. The curse didn't end. Curses rarely do. They change form, change hosts, change the way they speak, but they never vanish. Because the world keeps forgetting, and forgetting is how it begins. Elena still wakes at 11:42 p.m. Not from nightmares, not from whispers, but from instinct, a quiet knowing in her bones. She lights a candle, whispers the name, Alona, just once, just to make sure the silence stays safe. The bookstore remains open, not officially, not publicly, but if you knock the right rhythm, if you ask the right question, if you don't laugh when someone says, "I think I saw her," they'll let you in, and they'll tell you the real story. Not the viral version, not the cursed chain message, the true one, the one with a name, a face, and a thread of red that no one chose. There are new visitors now, people who almost tagged her, people who almost posted the image, people who caught the shadow just before it stepped out of frame. They come with fear and leave with responsibility. Because once you know, you carry it. Memory becomes protection, and forgetting becomes invitation. In another city, someone reposts a filtered version of the rooftop photo. They've edited out the girl in red, replaced her with a digital glitch, captioned it, "Creepy old pic, who dis?" They laugh, they scroll, they forget. 3 days later, their phone turns on by itself. The screen opens to the photo. Only now, it's not the rooftop. It's their living room. And there's someone standing in the corner, wearing red, hair hanging wet over her face, eyes waiting. But this time, she doesn't move forward. She just stands, watching. And when the person leans in, confused, they'll see something carved faintly into the wall behind her. A message. Not angry, not cruel, just a reminder. She's not here for you. She's waiting for someone who still laughs at her name. Somewhere in a dusty drawer, a photo begins to fade. Not from time, from forgiveness. And in the space where a curse once lived, a girl in white walks into memory. Softly, freely, finally. But don't mistake the quiet for safety. She's still watching. Not for you, for the next one who turns her life into a story without listening first. And when they do, she'll remember.